I'm not sure if you've heard, but there is a huge amount of Republicans that have come out in support for Kamala Harris. Um, all of those Republicans being uh, Bush, Romney, and McCain staffers and acolytes. And it's interesting the response we're seeing because of it. Uh, Let me pull up this post specifically. Have you ever felt betrayed? I have, and I do right now. I see these news stories about staffers from Bush, Romney, McCain supporting Harris, and not only do I feel betrayed, I feel like a sucker for having trusted these amoral piles of dog dirt in the past. Look to me, look, to me, the distinction in modern American political sphere has always been Democrats want to have intrusive government that tells citizens how to live their lives down to an excruciating level of command detail. Republicans want to have limited government where citizens get to decide for themselves how they will live. And I would say, as a Republican type conservative that I would say I am, I would agree with that from the conservative side. I'm sure if you talk to a lifelong Democrat, they will give you a slightly different look at that. But I would say from a conservative perspective, that's probably what you would get. To me, this has always been the bright line distinction between the two parties, and was the basis for every political decision I ever made, and every vote I ever cast. But it's obvious now that these traitorous pieces of pretend conservative garbage never actually cared about limited government. Rather, they were always in favor of intrusive government, just so long as they got to be the ones to decide the scope and nature of the intrusion. Loathsome people. These bloviating pieces of amoral crap never cared about limited government. They only cared about the power they could wield. This disgusts me and angers me. How dare you pretend to support conservative constitutional values when all along it was just about how you could control the rest of us? You filthy heaps of diseased and debrided hemorrhoidal tissue. Sorry, I didn't pre-read this. I, I sincerely hope you rot in hell for your lies and misdeeds and the ways you deceived and manipulated tens of millions of well-meaning Americans. Plus, Donald Trump is going to win. So suck on that, you despicable quislings. That was pretty good. All right. So I agree with this, with what he thought conservative Republicans expected of their representatives. However, basically, ever since Reagan, they, quite a few, I can't say all, but quite a few representatives would run as if they are Reagan and then legislate or um, run their office, whether they're legislative or executive office, more like John McCain. Big on war, big on government, big on big spending, and they would throw their conservative constituents a little bit of a bone here and there. Oh well, we're fighting against Roe v. Wade. You've got to vote for us, or they'll just be killing babies everywhere and all the time. And really, we were getting that since the 70s when Roe v. Wade was started. And even with Reagan, he ran on closing down the Department of Education, like within 4 years of it opening, because the Department of Education has not been around for that long. But so often, conservative politicians would say they were going to do something and half-heartedly attempt it, knowing they would fail. And so they could just go back to their constituents and say, I almost got it. Vote me in one more time. And I'm sure we can do it this time. I'm sure we can. Vote for me, because no, I didn't get done what I wanted to, but it was those dang Democrats that prevented me from doing it. And the Democrats would do the exact same thing on their side, except they more often got what they wanted than the Republicans on paper. Most of those Republican politicians got exactly what they wanted. They wanted a seat at the table. They wanted to be in Washington. They wanted the big donors to fill their pockets with cash, and they didn't really care about their constituents. In that sense, I would almost say that the Democrats are the more honest of the ones, traditionally. But specifically in the year 2001, after we got the attack on the two towers, Bush, who ran as a small government president who would get us out of policing the world and have a foreign policy more akin to like Madison, that we should be, or what George Washington said, a friend of all, alliance with none, is what Washington said. And it wasn't Madison, it was the Monroe Doctrine of, we'll stay here, you do whatever you want, but if you come over here, we'll kick the crap out of you. They're a little bit isolationist, but as long as you're a friend to everybody and you're willing to trade with everybody, why do we need to be everywhere? I'm okay with policing the seas if no one else wants to, and there's pirates out there and it's near Somalia. Fine, we can be the police of the seas. We don't need to have military bases surrounding all the countries that we don't like. The reason why Trump said that he wanted to keep the air base in Kabul was because it's only an hour flight from China. Why? Yes, China is an existential threat to America, and if we don't have military bases all around China, maybe they'll blow up America. Sure. I don't believe that. Maybe other people do, but okay. Anyway, so Bush ran on having a very America first foreign policy. Troops need to stay home. We don't need to be policing the world. I think he said specifically, we will not be the policemen of the world, when he ran in 2000. 2001, we got the Patriot Act, and that was the end of small government, George W. Bush. That was the end of not being the policeman of the world, George W. Bush. And ever since then, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And our Republican representatives, for the most part, I would say, have just gone along with it, because the military-industrial complex pays a lot of money. There's a lot of lobbyists that are willing to take you out to really fancy dinners where there's beautiful women and lots of drinks and gambling and whatever else you want to do. Any vice that you have, they will gladly fulfill. So in 2015, or sorry, let me go back a little bit. 2008, a representative from Texas decided he was going to run for president, and he started talking about how we were not living up to what we should be living up to. That we didn't need to be the policeman of the world, just like George W. Bush said. That it would be better to be a friend to all and an ally to none, like George Washington said. That the term blowback that the CIA coined actually was true. That us being on all those foreign shores made people mad. And the reason why, according to our analysts in the Middle East, the reason why the Twin Towers were struck isn't because we're all free and patriotic. It's because we've got air bases in Saudi Arabia. And he was talking about having, again, a small foreign policy. He was talking about not having a budget that's so bloated that we'll never be able to pay it back. He was talking about returning our currency to something much more stable so we're not racking up trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. I think we add $1 trillion to our debt every 100 days now, which is insane. He talked about lots of stuff like that. One thing that he said in the debate that really blew my mind was that he was asked about gay marriage. Are you for or are you against gay marriage? And the typical response was, I'm against gay marriage. We're going to end gay marriage. No gay man is ever going to marry another gay man in America. And his response, which was not the typical conservative response, was, this is stupid. We should not even be discussing this. The government should not be involved in marriage. It's a religious ordinance. And it blew my mind. Whoa, wait, there's a third option? It's not just yay or nay? Wow, holy crap. Amazing. And then another one that really, that started a lot of people down the road to conservatism. Let me pull that up right now because it's just so fantastic. It's not that one. And no, that's, sorry about that. So I'm just having to scan through this video to see if it's even got what I want. And it doesn't look like it does. Oh, geez, really? Here we go. 4 minutes of amazing. Let me bring that in.
Congressman Paul, I believe you are the only man on the stage who opposes the war in Iraq, who would bring the troops home as quickly as almost immediately, sir. Are you out of step with your party? Is your party out of step with the rest of the world? If either of those is the case, why are you seeking its nomination?
Well, I think the party has lost its way because the conservative wing of the Republican Party always advocated a non-interventionist foreign policy. Senator Robert Taft didn't want to be in NATO. George Bush won the election in year 2000 campaigning on a humble foreign policy, no nation building, no policing of the world. Republicans were elected to end the Korean War. The Republicans were elected to end the Vietnam War. There's a strong tradition of being anti-war in the Republican Party. It is the constitutional position. It is the advice of the founders to follow a non-interventionist foreign policy, stay out of entangling alliances, be friends with countries, negotiate and talk with them and trade with them. Just think of the tremendous improvement relationship with Vietnam. We lost 60,000 men. We came home in defeat. Now we go over there and invest in Vietnam. So there's a lot of merit to the advice of the founders and following the Constitution. And my argument is that we shouldn't go to war so carelessly. When we do, the wars don't end.
Congressman, you don't think that changed with the 9/11 attack, sir?
What changed?
The non-interventionist policies.
No, non-intervention was a major contributing factor. Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics. So right now we're building an embassy in Iraq that's bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it. And they are delighted that we're over there because Osama bin Laden has said, I am glad you're over on our sand because we can target you so much easier. They have already now, since that time, have killed 3,400 of our men, and I don't think it was necessary.
Wendell, may I make a comment on that? That's really an extraordinary statement. It's an extraordinary statement as someone who lived through the attack of September 11, that we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I've heard some pretty absurd explanations for September 11.
And here is kind of where Ron Paul sunk Rudy Giuliani's campaign. And you need to remember that Rudy Giuliani, at this point, he was the mayor of America. He had just, it had been fairly recently that he had finished being the mayor of New York during 9/11. And he was very, very popular, incredibly popular. He had cleaned up a lot of the crime that was happening in New York. New York was really riding high at that point in time. That's part of the reason why they were attacked. Previous attack was in Chicago in the 90s. But yeah, Rudy Giuliani was a force to be reckoned with, and Ron Paul ended his campaign basically at this point.
And I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Congressman?
I believe very sincerely that the CIA is correct when they teach and talk about blowback. When we went into Iran in 1953 and installed the Shah, yes, there was blowback. The reaction to that was the taking of our hostages, and that persists. And if we ignore that at our own risk. That if we think that we can do what we want around the world and not incite hatred, then we have a problem. They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there. I mean, what would we think if we were if other foreign countries were doing that to us?
Can I have 30 seconds, please?
No, wait a second. Let's...
The next day, Ron Paul had a news conference, I think with Michael, what's his name? He was an ex-CIA agent that was fairly high up in intelligence over in Iraq, and recently retired. And he came out with a huge pile of books and said, here's the recommended reading for Rudy Giuliani, because he doesn't know about foreign policy. And the internet just blew up. there were blimps saying Google Ron Paul and who is Ron Paul, and people were driving cross country and running cross country, spreading the word of Ron Paul. And the only reason why he didn't gain more traction is because there was a concerted effort by everyone in government, news media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to make sure that he did not get any traction. In 2020, he was even better. He got second in the Iowa straw poll, and he wasn't mentioned, even though he got second in the Iowa straw poll before the primaries even really started. And it was so laughable that on the Daily Show, Jon Stewart was like, it's like Ron Paul's the mysterious 13th floor you can't mention. And so the reason why I bring Ron Paul up is because he started a huge movement. And that movement kind of went to sleep after 2012 when Ron Paul's second candidacy ended a little bit, but it was still there, and it was still really, really hoping for someone or something that could take that. And a lot of them were hoping, myself included, that Ron Paul's son, would take up that mantle and run with it. And when he ran in 2016, when he was in the Senate, he tried to get along with the deep state a lot more than Ron. Ron was Dr. No. He had principles, and he stuck with them. He had a little sign in front of his desk saying, "Don't steal. The government hates competition." No lobbyist would ever go to Ron Paul because they knew that he could, or they wouldn't get anywhere with him. He was an icon, very lonely icon, because he was basically the only person in Congress that was like that. Rand Paul went to the Senate, very good senator, great senator, not his father. So when he ran his presidential campaign in 2016, he was good. He was very good, but he wasn't his dad. And someone else that ran against him, much more polished, much funnier, and also wasn't shy about hitting people hard, like when he told Jeb Bush that his brother belonged in jail. I think he said something like that the war was a huge mistake. He said Hillary should be in jail. It's just huge things. Wasn't nearly as well read as Rand or Ron, but because he was funny, and because he had huge name recognition because of The Apprentice, and because of WrestleMania, and because of Home Alone 2, and because he had his name plastered all over every hotel that he had in the world, Trump was a force to be reckoned with. And he had pretty good instincts. He had really good instincts, but he didn't have the political knowledge that Ron or Rand did. So he relied a lot on people that knew more than him, as I would too. Because of that, he chose to listen to some people that he probably shouldn't have. And that actually brings up something else that I did not bookmark. Just a second. All right, I found it. All right, I found it. So this is a video clip from an interview with Sean. What's Sean's first name or last name? Sean Ryan. he did an interview with Sean Ryan on the 26th of August, which for me is today. And I haven't watched all of it. I saw this clip and I thought, oh, this is an amazing clip. So this is Trump talking about his first term.
I didn't really know anybody in Washington. I was a New York person. I wasn't like a Washington, D.C. person. And all of a sudden, I'm president, and I'm driving down Pennsylvania Avenue with more police and motorcycles and military than I've ever seen before in my life. I said to my wife, "Do you believe this? I'm president." But I didn't know anybody in Washington. And I had to rely on people to give me names. And many were really good. I mean, Bob Lighthizer, I had great trade people. I had some great people. But I also picked people that, in retrospect, I wouldn't have picked. But now I know the smart ones, the dumb ones, the weak ones, the solid ones, the ones like you. I know the people. I know everybody, sort of like everybody. And we're going to have a great government. I didn't know. I had to rely on people I'd ask, I don't want to use names because I don't want to embarrass. They're not bad people, but I'd ask people that were rhinos, who do you recommend for such and such a position? All important positions. And they'd recommend some people that were rhinos or something, or weak or not good. And I don't have to ask too much right now. I know the people, and I've known them through fighting and wars. I've known them through, because all this stuff. I had great support. Don't forget, I beat Nancy Pelosi. I beat all these people, every one of them. And somebody said, if you look at it, he beat the Clinton family, right? And that was really Obama too, because he was behind her 100% like he was running. And I beat the Bush family. I beat everybody. And now I beat Biden. I got him out. I beat him twice, actually. I beat him the first time, but now I beat him a second time because it was the debate that got him out. And now I have to beat somebody that nobody ever heard of, who's a Marxist. And I think I'll be able to do that. But I know the people now. I've been in government now for 8 years. I was in government for no years. I mean, I became president and I said, I've never done this before. It's pretty, sort of a miracle. In the history.
So because he was the president, he was accountable for every decision that he made. His advisors, the rhinos that he listened to, he should have vetted his rhinos a little bit better and not listened to them. I would say toward the end of his presidency, he got better at choosing people. He did bring in Colonel Douglas McGregor for a little bit to help with the transit or the withdrawal from Afghanistan, to assist with that. But like Bolton, Pompeo, and a few of those that were, or Christopher Wray in the FBI, who's still there. Trump made some really bad decisions, and I would say probably because he was helped by some rhinos, probably some donors that said, you vote or you pick this person or you're not getting these $1 million for these other Republicans that you're wanting to get into office, or so on and so forth. So I would say first time around Trump, not great, but a lot better than Bush. No new wars. He did perform a missile attack on an empty Syria airport. He warned them first. That's kind of how Middle East politics works, though. That when one country wants to attack the other country, they warn them, hey, we're going to send some missiles your way, just so you know, our populace wants us to show a little bit of force. Like Iran and Israel have done that a few times with each other. A few times Israel has not done that to Iran. They've just attacked anyway. But anyway, so first Trump, not amazing, but compared to Biden, he was the second coming of George Washington and Reagan rolled into one. He was great. I've heard some people say the bump stock ban was horrible. I would agree. Shouldn't have banned bump stocks. That was after the Vegas shooting. He felt like something needed to be done. I'm assuming, don't know, I'm assuming that he got that from an advisor that he shouldn't have listened to. But he needs to be a little bit more well-read as to who his advisors are and what the Constitution is, because the Second Amendment is still there. Anyway, that gets me to what I'm actually talking about 30 minutes into my video, the Great Realignment. Bobby Kennedy has now endorsed Trump. Tulsi Gabbard has now endorsed Trump. Brent Weinstein just was on the Patrick Bet-David podcast saying that he's been a lifelong Democrat and he's probably going to be voting Trump this year. And then all these Bush acolytes decide we're going to support we're going to support Kamala Harris. So it seems like the deep state is Democrats and freedom-loving, constitutional-ish Americans are going Republican. To the Unity Party is really what it's being called by the people that don't want to be called Republicans. Fair enough. We'll call it the Unity Party now. And I'm loving it. I want to see that great divide. I want to see the deep state reveal itself and all of the neocon rats jump ship and go cling on to the rotting corpse of the Democrat Party. That's amazing. I love it. Because that way we know who we can trust and who we can't trust. And that's actually one good thing about Trump losing his last election, depending on how you look at it. When he lost, all of those snakes jumped ship as quick as they could. And they left him high and dry. And when he started getting attacked with lawfare, he could see who his friends were and who his enemies were. And those fair weather friends, when the storms came, he could see what was going on there. So now that he's set to retake the White House, depending on how much fortification is going to happen this year and how many ballot printers go burr, if he retakes the White House and he has people that might not be traditionally politically aligned with him, Bobby Kennedy was a Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. Elon Musk was a Democrat. But all three of them have something very much in common with Trump. They seem to care about freedom. They care about liberty. They care about the First Amendment. And Tulsi recently has spoken much more openly about her being more pro-Second Amendment, which is good because she was a little bit anti-Second Amendment, as a typical Democrat would be. So it seems like the people that really care about restoring or making America great again, making America healthy again, are forming a coalition, Unity Party. And if they are able to be elected and if they're able to follow through on what they are wanting, it could lead to a new great renaissance within America, where we have tech geniuses leading the way to make or to leading the way along with businessmen to trim down the government, to cut out the fat, to return America, the federal government, to much more close to what it should be. On top of that, they'll be innovating in such a way that technology will be able to jump forward a lot faster. Manufacturing will be able to jump ahead a lot faster. Trump in the Strickland interview also mentioned nuclear power and how we need to get a lot more electricity if we're wanting to be in the forefront of AI moving forward. And a great way to do that and still be green is nuclear energy, because nuclear energy is very green. Although a lot of environmentalists don't like nuclear energy, but a thorium reactor is much, much safer, but it takes 50 years with current regulation to get a nuclear reactor going. If we were able to cut some of that red tape and make it so a nuclear reactor could be put up in 3 years safely, or less, depending on how long it would take, then all of a sudden, if we had a nuclear reactor in each state, that would give us a lot more power than we currently have. It's interesting. Germany is tearing down nuclear reactors. France is building nuclear reactors. Germany is in an energy deficit. France is selling energy to other countries. There's other things we could do to make ourselves more energy wise, but I think building more nuclear energy plants makes more sense. But anyway, it's really exciting to see this shift, this realignment into the deep state party and the unity party. And I think I'll just keep calling it the deep state party. I like that. As the deep state party solidifies, the unity party will become more and more attractive, because the deep state party cares about censorship and Satanism. That's what it seems. They care about high taxes, killing the unborn, wars abroad, and doing away with much of the Constitution. The Unity Party cares about freedom, health freedom, financial freedom, not starting wars overseas. I like those three things. If we could just have those three things, I think we'd be doing pretty well. Anyway, it seems like every day there's more and more things coming out. Today was Tulsi Gabbard. Friday was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I don't know what tomorrow's going to be. Who knows? Trump might be in jail by the end of next month, because his sentencing for his fraudulent 30 felony count trial hasn't happened yet, but it should be thrown out, because that was all done while he was president. So a lot of their case was based on presidential stuff that was actually presidential immunity. But who knows, because the country's insane right now. So we might have a president running from jail. That would be awesome. Crazy times. But yeah, we'll see what craziness happens tomorrow. If you like what I have to say, please like, share, subscribe. If you have any comments, please put them down below. Let's start a conversation and see where we go from there. All right.